Hi everybody, it's Kate Quinn from Fabricated Quilts, and today is our Sew Steady Long Arm Sunday. Just to orient you, we are going to be doing long arm education on the second Sunday of the month whenever I'm available, and all of our designs would be something that would be appropriate for long armers or domestic users. So if you're out there and you're joining our broadcast, can you go ahead and let me know that you can hear me okay and that you can see? We had some visual issues last time, and we're going to try to make sure we have a little bit of a better view and better setup this time. So if you can let us know how we're doing, that would be great. Looks like we got 20 people on our broadcast, and so we'll go ahead and get started. So many of you guys have seen the tools that we already have. Today we're going to be using the Longarm Rulerwork Kit set. So I'll just put this up here so you can see it right there. Right, so this is a very popular Sew Steady product. It's our Westalee sampler set plus a few other important tools, including our spacing gauge, our crosshair square, our 8-point crosshair. We will be using our 12-inch arc, and then all 7 of the tools that are in the sampler set. And so what I've done is I've set up several designs just to explore these and to help you see the hand positions, and we'll just talk through them as we go. So again, designs are available for everybody, long arm and domestic, but we'll be showcasing them today on a long arm using a movable frame and moving the head of the sewing machine as we do the designs. Okay? All right. So I have a few marks on here. I was practicing and planning last night, so don't worry about those marks. We'll explain all of the markings as we go. And if you have any questions, Honey is with me today, so he's going to help me make sure that we give you all the good information. So the first one that I want to do is I'm going to use the crosshair square, and I'm going to line it up so that I have a center mark right here through these diagonals for each corner. So I'm going to scoot this out of the way just for a moment, and I'll just set this on here and get myself those straight lines. Did you guys notice? I've got the wrong one. This is my 6-point crosshair. Honey's going to grab my 8-point. They do look similar, so always make sure you check that before you make any markings. So this is our 8-point crosshair, and I'm going to be able to put those lines right in and get myself centered right there. The first design that I'm going to use is using the circle, the 2-inch circle. So I'm just grabbing some tools over here. You may see me reaching across because, let me show you, I've got my long arm ruler rack and tray right there. That is a Sew Steady product that's made by Westalee Design. So thank you, Leonie. And you can see I've got all my tools and my spacing gauge, thank goodness. So we're all set right there. So let's go ahead and make sure we're all ready to go. So I've got it lined up, and I'll just make those marks. All I need is just 4. And I don't really even need the center per se, but I'll just put that in there in case we do need it later. So let's grab that out. I do have my stable tape grips, and on the circle they're on 4 corners. So I think that when you're on the long arm, a circle can be a little bit tricky. That's one of the reasons we wanted to put this design in here. We're going to use the reference lines that are on there and just line them up. So all 4 of them should line right up on the lines that we made with our crosshair square. Once I do that, I could pick up my needle, and I'm going to bring my long arm over here. So right now the ruler base is right there, and you'll see that it'll kind of lift up the ruler and flatten it out. To get the foot inside, I'm going to lift it up. This particular machine is spring loaded, and if it wasn't, you have a machine that isn't like that, you can take the key out and you can load it right in there. And I'll get the foot seated first. So I'm going to hold the edge of the ruler and just gently bring the long arm against it, and then get myself right in place. I'm not worried about if it moves right now because I know where my needle position is. So I'll get my needle aligned, and then all these threads out of my way, And then I'll get lined up right on my reference lines right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. When I start, I'm going to go that way. Okay, so I have to keep pressure on the long arm against the foot the whole time. So if for any reason as I'm moving I start to perceive that there's not enough pressure as I move forward, I'll move my hand position so that I can get a better grip. But I've got to pull that machine so that the contact is very strong. The machine has weight, and if I don't pull it and keep it in contact, then I'm not going to get a good shape with my ruler. So every time I'm working with those points of contact so that my hand is pushing towards the foot and the ruler is pushing this way, right? Machine that way, ruler that way. So I have a little bit of duality. I'm not just holding the ruler in place. I've got to make two partners work together there. So we've done that circle, so let's just tack it off, and I'll just kind of hold it right against the edge and put some extra stitches in there. And then I'll just lengthen this so that I have a little bit of a tail so I can bring that down and up. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut that thread so that I can release my bobbin underneath. And that's the same thing that you can do if you're on your domestic. If you just put your needle down and up, then you'll have the ability to pick up your bobbin thread and clean up any tails. So right there, I've got my starting tails and my ending tails. Let's clip them off and just clean up our design. Okay, we'll get all of these threads out of our way. We always want to keep our workspace clean, especially on a long arm, because if the thread catches around the foot or gets stitched in, then that traps this and then I cannot move very well. So that'll be something for you to look forward to. Right now, what I want to do is I'm going to put some additional little elements in our square just for fun. And now I'm going to line this up on two lines, and I'm going to put the center mark here right on the center reference line. So what I want to do is have a quarter of a circle. So let's see if we can get it lined up right there. So this diagonal is aligned on this line. This diagonal for the template is on this line, and the center line is lined up right there. So what we're going to do is just put some little fills around here, and we'll show you how we'll process through the design so you can see the path. So again, I want to be in the stitch line, so I'll bring my foot right to the stitch line and pick up my needle, pick up my bobbin thread, and then I'll set that needle right back in that position so that I'm aligned right up against the foot. Okay, so we'll put a few tacking stitches and then we'll be ready to sew. Okay, so right there, slowly coming right into a stop. And what I'm going to do now is I'll take this off. Okay, because I do want that circle, and I'm actually going to set this key aside, so I'll keep the tape and I'm going to put it in the tray so I can find it later. And we're going to use the clamshell right now, so let me grab that right there. And we're just going to echo it. So right here, we just need to move up a little bit so that we can line up the clamshell. So I'm just going to walk right up the existing stitch line, a few stitches. I do always stop my machine whenever I'm working with it. If I'm not actively sewing and I'm not moving it, I press the stop button, and you'll see that I always have in the needle down position. This prevents anything from happening that I'm not directly controlling. I want to make sure that no matter what I do, the machine is not doing something that I'm not controlling right away. So right now I'm lining the center line, so I'll just hold it up. This line right here, and I'm going to line up right at the tip with this center line aligned right in the middle. So make sure I have my grips down, and I'll get aligned right there. So I'm a little bit far. So what I would do here, if I was, quilting my quilt, I'm going to go back to the template, right? And then I'll just go to the other side. Now, we've put in our little arc, so I'm just going to travel over to the other side, and I'll show you. I can estimate a little bit right here to see where do I need my needle to be. So right here is where I'm going to end up sewing. So I've got to travel over to that spot. So approximately right there is where I need my needle to be. So that helps me not overstitch too far or go too far out of alignment. Okay, so we'll just put this on and we'll scoot right over to that spot. Right there, if I want to be right on that exact stitch line, I'll take that spacing gauge and I'll align it right there so that I can sew right down to that spot. And that'll be pretty close to where I need to be to get this next circle aligned. So I've left the key out so I can more easily just manipulate the design and get right where I want to be. So let's scoot down. We're lining up all 3 lines and we're just going to sew that little quarter circle across. Okay, so you'll see different hand positions as we go around. We'll be on different sides and we'll have to move the machine in a different way. So that'll give you the opportunity to see several different orientations with this design. So again, I can just scoot up a little bit. I only need to move up about 1/4 of an inch or so. Okay, and then I can put the clamshell back on right in the center there. Looks like I need about 1 more stitch, so I'm actually going to just start the needle and push up a little bit. So now this is right in the center, and I'll go ahead and I'll sew across. Now, I'm going to show you something. I need to be on this side to maneuver, so I'm just going to stitch back over there rather than try to stitch all the way around to get to the other side. So path is always important, and if I'm using the template and I need to get to another side, I like to travel on the template because it's a really clean, pretty look. It helps really give a nice sharp crispness to it, and I don't care if there's a little bit of extra thread there, it'll still work out. So just like we did before, we'll line this up again one more time, right on these 2 lines. So right there and right there, and then this one's on the center line. And at that point, then I can estimate exactly where my needle position needs to be. So I'll just put a little dot right there. And that helps me to get oriented so that I don't stitch too far. Okay? So again, on this side, I could travel on the back side here. If I wanted to, I can use this. That might be a little bit easier for me to hold. So you can try different ways, whichever one you think is going to easily get you to that next point. Okay, always wait till your needle stops moving. And here I can get everybody lined up. I want to get right on the lines, and it looks like I need 1 more stitch. It looks like I'm not quite all the way there, so I'll just push with the ruler so that I can get both of those sides lined up. Okay, stopping in the stitch line, pull that out, and now we'll just travel up a tiny bit so that we can line up the clamshell. All right, and then again, this one is going to be a little awkward. You'll see my hand's going to have to be on this side, and I need to move up maybe 1 or 2 more stitches, so I'll just let the machine stitch up a little bit. And then I'll get myself lined up. I'm right on the first reference line and I'm lined up right in the center of the clamshell that way. So I'll hold here, make sure the foot is touching, stitch over, and then I'll just come right back so that my needle is in position for the next part of the design. Because I need to travel this way, I want to be on this side. All right, let's estimate one more time, and then you'll be able to see that last position. So we'll mark the needle position one more time so that you can see. We're looking to be 1/4 inch on the inside of the template right there. That's just an estimate. We may need to adjust it, but you can use that as a visual as you're working on your designs as well, and that'll help you move along. So here, let's just go ahead and we'll set that in place. Get my 1/4 inch space right there, and I'm going to sew right down to that dot right there. Okay, put this on, and we'll get aligned on all of the reference lines. 1, to and in the center. And if I'm lined up and the foot's not touching, then I'm going to push up to the foot so that it's touching the template. And now we can put that last little bit of the design in. Okay, and here I'll line this right up, right in the center. This one's going to be the easiest position. So I'm right on the center here, and I've got my center line perfectly aligned and my foot is touching. So here I'll just sew over and finish that part. Once I'm in this stitch line right on this side, a lot of times I'll just put a straight edge right there so that I can just tack off right in the stitch line just like that. And my machine also has a walk button where if I press the needle up down button, it'll just walk the needle up and down. And that's how I can make those tacking stitches really quickly with a lot more control. Okay, so the design's finished. We'll go ahead and clip it and let you see what you can see. So real quick right here, this is my bobbin thread, and you'll see as I move the machine, it draws the bobbin away. So the bobbin now is just underneath the quilt, not in the way. And I'll clip any loose threads on both sides and make sure that the design is closed now. Okay? So pretty fun, pretty cute little design. This is a snowball block, and we're just going to put a couple of different designs in, and then we'll show you a fill in these triangles. And depending on time, we may add a few more things, but we'll see how much time we have. Okay? So this design is finished now, and we're going to move over to the next square. So we're just going to scoot the camera just a slight bit. Again, honey's helping me. He's helping me make sure that we can have a nice, good view. Right here in the center, I'm going to line up for using my 6-inch spiral. So this is the one that we're going to use right here. I love this design. And we're going to kind of create a little bit of a flower design and show you some ways that you can use this other than just the basic design. The first thing I want to do is I really need a good center mark. So I'm going to take the ruler and just lay it right through the center here and mark it just like that. Okay, and this way too. That way we'll know exactly where our alignment marks are both directions. And I kind of want to do it this way in case my square's not square, because I think it isn't. So you can see I started my practice up here, but the center is right there. So that's where we're going to pick up our bobbin right now. Okay, and we will be stitching back to the center a couple of times, so right now I'm not too worried about just setting my needle and leaving these threads out here. You can see that the foot is going to make it difficult to get in there and get a really clean cut, so maybe I'll try to cut it when I'm away from the center, and if not, I'll just move these out of the way until the end. Okay, just like we do with our domestic machines, I can hook this right around the foot, and we would be moving the fabric, but here I'm going to move my machine, and I'm going to sew right to this corner. So I'll use my spacing gauge and line it up. This flat edge right here is right against the template, and it's measuring this exact spacing. So I'll just sew by pulling the machine towards me. So I've got some fingers off onto the fabric and some on the ruler, and I'm actually pushing my machine against the ruler as well. So it's 3 points of position right there to get us to where we need to be. And here I'm just going to sew right back up, right to the center, and I'll just put 1 or 2 more of these in. I'll just put 1 echo on this side. So you can see we've got 1 line and 2 lines. I'll show you right there. See how we have 2 different lines? Actually 3. I'm going to use this one right here in the middle. So when I line it up, I'm going to line it up right on this part. Okay? So it's the line in the middle is now aligned right on that white line. And I'll just put 1 additional line in there. Touch the seam and come back to the center. And I'm just going to go around this all the way. So right now we came right to this corner, and we're going to do the same thing to here. Okay, so we'll use that spacing gauge again. Get it aligned nice and flat against the edge of the ruler. Hold everybody in place. And my ruler base is right underneath here. You can actually see this is the edge of it right there. So even though this is off, my total sewing field will be covered because the ruler base will actually move as the machine moves. Okay? And you can see there's a little bit of vibration as we go. That's pretty normal. Again, I'll move up to that second reference line and I'm lined that stitch line up right there. Okay? So touch the line and hold to come back. And we'll just keep going around. This shows the hand position as you're on each position around the foot. So we've got it in the front here, and now we've got it on this side, and now we're going to position it at the back. So that helps you to see each orientation and how I would line things up each time. So on this one, this is the tricky one. I don't want to hold on this side because the needle is coming this way. So I need to hold my hand on this side so that I can be comfortable and not have any fingers or any obstruction in the way of that thread path. So we'll touch the corner and come back to the center. Okay, and then the same thing, I'm going to line it up on the second line, and then we'll just stitch it out and back to the center like that. Okay, so I'll just take it off so you can kind of see where we're going. I just got a little wedge, a little wedge, a little wedge, and we've got one last one. So let's move these threads out of the way, and we'll do this last one. So we want to make sure that our curves are going the same direction. So I want to make sure that I don't just come over here and be like, oh, wrong way. No, just keep them all going the same direction. Right here we'll line it up on that 1/4 inch. Right here with that spacing gauge. I'm keeping the edge of the spacing gauge right here flat against the template and holding it in position. All right, touch the corner and come back. And again, if I need to adjust my center position, I can do that. And now we'll do the little extra. Okay, and touch and back. All right. So what I wanted to do now is we're going to actually make the little leaf right here, and we're going to go the other direction. So this template is pretty unique in the sense that if the foot is here and we travel that way, the arc is going to go that way. But we can flip it over and have the foot here and the arc will go this way. So as we were going around, this was the position that we went around to put all these lines in. So at this point I can flip it over, and now we're going to line it up the other way, and we'll put the same reference lines in. We'll close this leaf at the diagonal, and then we'll put the little feather in, and it'll create its own little fun design. Okay, so let's get lined up with our spacing gauge. Okay, so again, I'm going to hold on this side to keep the stitch path clear, and I'm pulling and pushing with both hands. So as I'm pushing with the template, I'm pushing to the left, okay, that way, right, just this way. I'm pushing with the template, and I'm pulling with the handle, I'm pulling the foot against the ruler. So that's kind of a big difference between what you would see on your domestic and what you're going to need to work on with your long arm. So now let's turn it so we can get that second reference line, and then we'll just put that line in, touch, and back to the center. Same thing here, turn until we can connect at a 1/4 inch. So we'll measure that space right there. Okay, and I'll hold my hand, again, some pressure off, some pressure on, so we can feel everything that's happening. I am not too worried about the fabric moving because on the long arm that isn't very common. You'll get a little bit of movement like this way, a little shift like this, but it's not really enough necessarily to make your ruler move. As long as I hold it steady, then what's moving is the ruler base under here. So that is kind of like when you go to the ocean and you stand in the sand and it's washing sand out from under your feet as the waves come in. There's a little bit of a sensation of alternate movement under there because this isn't moving and you're watching the machine, but there is a little sense of movement underneath there. And I think the first couple of times that I tried it, it feels a little bit weird, but after you've done it a few times, your body quickly makes that adjustment and it really just feels normal. Okay, so we've done our connection right here. So what we need to do is do the little echo on this side. So we'll line it up on that, and then we'll just put the rest of these lines in. So touch, come back, and we'll just keep moving around and line it up on this side. So again, that spacing gauge is great because that gives us that level of precision that we want so that our little leaves up here will close beautifully. So pressure on and off the ruler, my pinky's off. I can even have this on and off if I want to. Close the design right here at the top, sew back. I'm right in the center, and now I'll put in the echo right there. Touch, and back to the center. And then this will be the last one, so I'll just get these threads out of the way so they're not in our design. We don't want to stitch through them anymore. And let's see, we need to go this way, so keep rotating it all the way around. And then this is our alignment position right here with our spacing gauge, right there to get right into that corner. So I've got to put my wrist kind of around to give that support on the back side. So again, the foot is pushing towards the back. Sometimes some of these positions might feel a little bit awkward. And sometimes when I feel that, what I do is I'm probably going to stitch a little slower in those tricky areas where my hand position's not as comfortable. And this is definitely one of those. Okay, so we're back to the center of our design. Let's go ahead and we'll just tack it off and we'll move the machine out of the way for you. Okay, so again, watch the bobbin draw away, and then we have just some leftover tails, and we'll trim those off nice and close and get that out of the way. So pretty design, don't you think? Now you got to ignore all of my marking lines. I can't show you the back with this machine. I can't take this quilt up and turn it over without having some problems. But I think that's a great design that will fit in any square. It'll fill a design that's a little bit bigger. This square is, let's see what size. So this whole block is 6 inches, right? You can tell because this is a 5.5 square. But this smaller block is right around 4 for the interior, just a little bit bigger, I think. So this is 4 inches, and this will definitely be able to fill a larger space from the half. You can see that it'll fill something much bigger, perhaps even up to an 8-inch. I would have to test it to get the exact measurements, but notice that you could do this with a much bigger space. And if you had a bigger space, you could put a few more flourishes. I only put 1 because already this design, I think, fills this space really well, and I did not want to crowd it in there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move down to the next one. And the next one that I'm going to share is the little gingerbread scallop right there. So cute, right? So in order to make him line up, this ruler will cover this entire distance right there. I mean, it's big enough that it'll cover that entire space. So in order to keep on the center line and keep the design aligned, I'm just going to mark a line right through the center, and that's going to help me keep the design aligned. So you know what? I'm going to let you guys make a choice. I can use this as the reference line, or I can make a center line right here, and I can make it go this way. Do you guys have a preference? I'll give you a minute to decide. I know, right? You have to do some engagement now. So either I can make my little clamshells go up this way, or I can just align them on the square and we'll make them go that way. So you tell me what you think would be best. So there's a little bit of a lag right there. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to wait a second so I can see what you guys think. Okay, I think the diagonal would look pretty cool, and that'll give me a chance to explain some things. Here, I would have a really easy reference line right here as I'm moving up the design. When I put the first row in, if I'm using this as the center diagonal, it's not quite as easy because we don't have as much of a visual mark. So let's go ahead and we'll put that center line in. We'll use our 8-point crosshair. That'll give us kind of a nice centering right there. We'll just line that up. And we just need the reference line. So let's see if I can, I'm going to actually bring my ruler base a little closer to align the flat surface right there. Okay, so now as we go, when we start, we're going to have to start down here. So we're going to literally line up, I think, the very center right there. And we'll just sew the first one. And we're going to have to travel on these lines right here as we move up. Or we can move up on the ruler. So we'll show, I think, both of those, but that first one is the trickiest one. So I'm going to move some tools off of here because we have quite a few on the sewing area. And I'm going to leave this one handy. I usually just kind of put it a little bit down here out of my sewing area so it's not in the way, but I usually flip back and forth between my straight edge quite a bit. So I'll keep those tools handy and they'll be easy for me to reach. So right here, let's line this up, and I'm going to push it up, I think, just a little bit for that first one. Let's see where my thread is. All right, and then let's get our foot seated right in the stitch line right there. I'll hold this in place. I'm going to pull up my bobbin. Okay, get my needle right in the stitch line. If you have trouble, like if you don't have a laser and you have trouble getting your needle aligned, if it doesn't line up, you can always just adjust it. It's okay. You make the call so that you get that alignment that you want to have. So I'll put a few tacking stitches right there, and I'm actually going to pull these threads just out of my way so that they're not in that stitch area. Okay? All right. Here we go. So really, really small little space right there. So we really have to be careful about our movement. Okay? Now what we did before is we went to the center of the clamshell, right? And if I'm at this position at the top, then when I line this up, I'm at the exact correct position for the next row. But that would mean that I would have to double stitch in both directions, right? I'm going to have to go this way, right, to get to that outer position. And then I'll come back to the center. And now we'll sew this way. And simply, I'm just going to move right to the center of this one. And now I can just move up. And I should be able to be lined up right at the top here for each of those now. So I'm going to just double check, make sure I'm aligned. I think I need one stitch that way. There we go. Okay, and then let's do this row. One. When I get to the top of the clamshell, I'm going to have to shift my fingers each time. So right now, ooh, sorry guys, I had pressure right up in those clamshells, and now I need to move my hand to have a good pressure on the next position. So you always want that pressure right where you are putting your foot. So I'll come back up to the top of this one right here, and we'll use that as the next alignment. So you could see, let's see, can you see? Pretty good. We'll come in just a little bit. Right, so there's your little clamshells. So we are getting some double stitching in there. That's totally fine. At this point, I'm at the top of this one right here. So what I'm going to do is just shift the template up. And that is probably the easiest way for me to maneuver now as I go up this diagonal. And this center line is always going to be aligned right there in the middle. So now that we don't have those additional reference lines like we do if we were using the straight edge, this is how we can manipulate to still move through the design. So if your machine's heavy, these are small changes with these tiny circles. So you just want to make sure that you are staying right on the template. If you need to adjust your hand position, stop your machine and then we'll just put the last one in right here, and then we'll come right back to that center position right there. So get your needle right in the center here of this one, and each time we can just move over and we can check all of the reference lines. Again, this is right in the center as we do that part of the design. So we'll have to complete this side, right, to close that out, and then we'll come back. Keep the foot touching, touching, touching each time. Okay, and here's where I think I want to adjust my hand position so I'm a little further over, so I have good support where I'm going. Not where I've been, but where I'm going. This is the last one, and then we'll come right back up to the top and right in the center. So this is a kind of a fun fill. It almost looks like a little basket right there. You know, they kind of have that sensation of three-dimensionality, like it's moving. We'll do one more, and then I think we'll go ahead and we'll move on to another design. So you guys kind of get the idea. If I was doing it on this side, it would be pretty easy to just align the ruler right on the, let's see, I'll show you. Let's get that card. Thanks, babe. Just like we did with the big one, right? Right there, this is the white line that you're aligning the foot right here. And as the needle sews in, the foot will sink into there and the needle will line up. Well, on the little side, look what you get. You just get this tiny, tiny little line for your alignment. So you can't be lining it up down here because that's not going to give you what you want. It's this line right there that you're going to be using to line that up. Okay? So it's really small, hardly any movement at all. All right, let's go ahead and we'll just do this last one that kind of fills up half of that space. So we're at the top. We'll just push it up into the hook and check that alignment. Sometimes if you are off, I can't really smush as much on this as I could on a domestic. So I have to make a little bit of an adjustment inside of the stitch pattern, and I'll get everybody lined up right here at the top. So the line that we just showed you should be touching the top of the clamshells that we've already sewn. Okay, so let's talk about pressure, right? I'm holding a little bit firmly with this, right? Let's say I hold with all the pressure I have. I'm holding on for dear life. If I put all of my body weight on this ruler base so hard, I'm pushing down so hard, if the ruler base cannot move, the machine cannot move either. Okay, I cannot put all of my weight. I have to hold firmly but gently, because right now I need that ruler base to shift with the machine or it will not stitch, right? So I've got to always make sure that I don't have too much pressure or the design just will not be able to sew out. Right here, I'm going to need one more. So I'm just going to scoot that over and get aligned right on the top and make sure I can get that last one in so I can check all of my reference lines, the center position, and just make sure that I can get all the way to this other side. Okay, so here we'll just sew right in, and that's the design that we have right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to ditch around this design rather than cut it. I don't need to cut it. So I'll use the straight edge and we'll just sew right over to there, and that's where we'll start the next design. So we're going to kind of come out a little bit so you could see more of the design as we travel. Okay. So right now this is my straight ruler, and I can use it on whatever side gives me the best visibility. I can even use an additional line here to square this up, but sometimes, you know, whatever is most comfortable might not be the best visual. Like right here, if I hold it, I kind of have to look over the edge of the ruler, but that's probably the easiest way for me to hold it. So I think I will try that. You guys get to decide what you want and what is going to be the easiest for you to do. So I'm going to sew right down to the corner. Okay. Stop right in the corner, and at this point I'll just pivot this and we'll use the spacing gauge and align that other side and get right to this corner right there. So I'm checking a few places and I think the spacing looks pretty good, and we'll just sew to that next corner. Then we'll need to readjust our camera position just a little bit so we can get right to that next design. So I'll stop right in this corner right here, and I'll also cut some threads. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to see if we have some questions real quick. So if you would have a way to go to the center on the opposite side. So Linda Richards was asking if I did this same design and I made it come this way. I believe that's what she's asking, right? So we'll kind of come into that design just a little bit, right? So this is just above the center line right there, okay, with this design. And I could start on this side and come this way, opposite like this. And yes, you would very likely get a little bit of an egg and dart on this center line. I think it would be really busy if you continued it all the way down to the bottom, so I don't think I would do that. This is pretty dense quilting already, and I think that would look a little choppy if we tried to continue opposite clamshells all the way down. But I think it might be fun to just cross over the midline and put that egg and dart right in the center. So I'll give that a try. Thanks, Linda. All right. So, can you scroll up a little bit so we can see if there's some other comments? We're just going to look real quick and see if there's any other questions or anything as we go. So, somebody said I make it look easy. I get a lot of questions about, is it easier to quilt with rulers on a long arm or is it easier on a domestic? It's different. I think that whether it is easier depends on your frame of reference. If you have always been a domestic quilter, then most likely it's going to be easier for you if you're on your domestic machine. So we're going to scoot the camera just a little bit to the side because otherwise I won't be able to sew. So I'm going to also scoot my little ruler rack over a bit so we have a little bit more room. So give us a second. Okay. So on this design, we've done a design with circles, a design with the 6-inch spiral. We've used both sides of the clamshell. We've used the larger one to echo the circles because we had a 2-inch circle and a 3-inch clamshell. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use the 6-inch spiral and we're going to put this shape right in here, and then we're going to show you how we echo it. I like it. I think it's a really easy design that's pretty simple. So if you're looking for just some simple quilting inside of a square, this is awesome. And before we stitch it, I want to show you two different options and how that would change things. Okay, I have two rulers in my hand. I have the 12-inch arc and I've got this 6-inch spiral. Okay, we'll kind of put them here so you guys can see a little better, right? Very big difference in the curvature right here, right? This one's very flat and this one's a lot deeper. I can do this with either one of these templates and it still is going to look awesome, but it will not have as deep of a drama if I use the 12-inch arc because it's a lot flatter. This is going to give you a much deeper arc and I just like that. So what I've done is I've just put a piece of tape right there, you can see, and I'm using that to kind of be my reference line so that I can line it up straight like that. And I still need to check my 1/4 inch on each side. So again, this is going to bring us on each side. You'll be able to see the orientation, and I do have grips on both sides of this. So I'm going to line this up right at the 1/4 inch. I'm touching the foot first and then I'm checking the spacing on this side. Okay, so again, not trying to go ridiculously fast, keeping my fingers near the ruler foot, right? I should not be holding very far. If I hold back here, I'm going to be popping this up like that. So I always want my fingers up into this curve, and that's true whether I'm on a domestic machine or if I'm on my long arm. I still want to check that each time. And again, right here, I'll just push up a tiny bit if I need to make sure I can get right into that corner. And I can also walk my fingers on this because the ruler base is under here supporting this. If I start here and I start advancing past where my fingers are, I can just walk them up like that. And that'll help give me a little bit more pressure in the area that I need to have it. Okay, so right now, let's do this side. Again, I'm using that tape and I'm checking the 1/4 inch right on this side to make sure that I have the proper spacing right there so I can get right into the corner. Now this one again, super tricky. I can't really hold it right there, can I? That means I've got to put my hand kind of backwards like this. This area can be very ouchy if you get your soft pad of your hand clamped under there. It is not fun. So you want to make sure you give a little bit of clearance on that side before you start sewing. So I'm going to kind of work myself in there. I'm pulling the ruler towards me a little bit, and once I can adjust my hand position and be a little more comfortable, I'm going to, because I cannot hold that very comfortably. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust my hand at the immediate possible moment so that I can get the correct pressure that I need to get that arc in there. And then on this side, super easy. Oh, thank you. We're done with that little contortionism. But that is quite common that you'll see that you need to make those adjustments with your long arm that you might be holding in kind of a weird spot. Okay, now I've completed the arc. It looks awesome. Can you guys see it? Let's come in a little bit more so you can see it better. Yeah. So it's nice and clean, all of these corners. Spacing gauge is so awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to tack off right here. Make sure it's totally tacked off because I'm actually going to lift up my needle and I'm just going to scoot this in until my foot is right in the mid space right here. So actually I'm going to hold this thread, and what I want is I want to align the foot right in between right there, those two arcs. Okay, so that means I kind of have to look around the back, maybe check a little bit, make sure I'm in that spot. And then I'll just put my needle and I'll tack it off right there. And I'm going to put my needle down in the down position. Then I'm going to take the same ruler, I'm going to push it up a little bit so that it's right on the existing line. And as I sew down, the foot will stop when I touch this side. Okay, so this arc right here, I'm going to pull the ruler, the machine forward, and when the foot is touching this side, that's when I stop. The reason that that's where I'm stopping is that is the perfect 1/4 inch spacing, right? As I bring this forward, the foot is the spacer right there. And then I can adjust this position on this side. The same thing, just like we did before, we'll go around until the foot touches. A little bit hard to see on the back, but good enough, right? And then we'll keep going. So here I can only get a little ways, and then my hand is in the way. So now I'll adjust that position. In between any adjustment like that, my machine is off. I always click the button and I turn it off. I'm not going to tell you that's what you have to do. I feel secure and comfortable doing it that way. I know that the machine will not do anything that I don't want it to do because it's off. I literally look at the screen and make sure that the red light is on. Mine has a green light if the machine is running and a red light if it is off. So that can be an important safety feature if you need that. So you make your own decision, but that is the way that I like to do it, and I feel like that prevents any potential for mishap, whether it's a sewing mishap or an injury. Okay, so again, I don't need to hold on that other side. We'll just line this up right here. As I come in, I do want this design to close very precisely. So no matter what this edge is now telling me, I want to end right where I started. So this is what I will do. I'm going to put that spacing gauge on there and then make sure that this matches. Okay, and I'm right at the end, and this is where I can add some of those tacking stitches with my walk foot. Okay, so now we've got our beautiful arc in there. I think it looks amazing. And now we can just pick up the needle and I'm going to clip those threads and we'll be all done. I thought these lines would be gone by today because they're the air erase. So you are getting a little bit of a shadow echo from my practice, but all those lines will go away and what will be left with is just this really pretty arc fill right there. So let's see how we're doing for time. So we're not quite at an hour, so I've got another design that we're going to share. It does take a little bit of shifting on it, and so I think I'm going to scoot things over and kind of get us reset a little bit. I think we'll start on this corner and then we'll end up kind of going this way. So we'll start here and then we'll move around. Okay. All right, let me get out one more tool. Let me put these away. I'm trying to stay organized. You guys know how I am. I'm a big messy girl. So I'm putting them on my ruler rack. And the tool that I'm going to use is called the 4-inch arc. So I'll show you right there. Right there. Can you see those little dotted lines? I believe that the lines now are actually solid, the little white lines, but mine is pretty old right here, these little dotted lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up this arc around each of these little triangles right here. And I'm just going to go from where the foot is telling me over to here, just like that. And whatever the spacing is, this whole part of the arc is symmetrical. So I don't need to worry too much about is it aligned perfectly. The foot space, this will push up only a certain distance, and that distance will make all these arcs the same because this leg of each triangle is the same. Okay?
So Fran asked if we could do one showing the handles of the machine. I'm going to try and zoom back a little bit.
Or even just pick up the machine.
Let me just back up this way a little.
Okay.
That way they can kind of see more of how you're.
Okay, so you won't be able to see the design quite as clearly this way, but I think Fran has a good point. We really need to see a lot of the body position. You want to lift it up? Okay, so right here. All right, so we're going to just orient it so you can look a little bit more down. Hang on just a second. We'll get it all set up for you. Okay, and then you can orient it like that if you want to. Okay. All right. So again, really important. Thank you, honey. He's definitely an important helper for us today. So we'll just start. We can start anywhere. And what we're doing is we're doing the short legs of the triangle. We're not doing this longer leg, although we could, but we're not. Right? So here, I'll just pick my thread up right at the center of the design right there. And again, I'm not going to necessarily be back to this exact spot, so I'll tack it for now. And I'll keep my needle in the down position. With the 4-inch arc, I'm going to just hold it out one more time. This side and this side are the same. They're going to sew the same arc. I know it doesn't look like it. It looks like this is a lot flatter, but they are the same. And what that has to do with is that this is an inside curve where the foot is on the inside and the curve is stitching on the outside. And here, the foot is on the outside of the curve and it's stitching on the inside. That's why they look different, but they are the same. So you could use either side of this template and it's going to give you the same result. Okay, so right here, as I said, I just would push this forward until I get the 1/4 inch right on this side. So here, I'm going to line up so that I get my 1/4 inch with my spacing gauge. And then hold everybody in place, and I'm just going to stitch right over to the corner. Okay, again pressing the button at this point so that my needle is not moving, nothing's happening. Okay, and then same thing, if I wanted to, this is a little short on the inside to comfortably stitch that. I could do it, but I think it's safer and better because I have a longer space on this side to line it up. Okay, so again, use your spacing gauge to get right in there so you can get right to your corner. And I'm going to have to hold the ruler on this position. Okay, and I'm pulling that machine across my body. Once I get close to my hand, I got to shift a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to hold back here. I'll check that spacing again, and we'll sew right into that corner. And then same thing, I'm just going to keep going. This one will be essentially the same because a little bit more. Okay.
Wider perspective.
Okay. All right. How's that, you guys? Is that helping you get a little better view? Letting you see? I'm wondering if it's possible to swap hand. It isn't. It isn't, Jillian. So you really have to have your hand out of the way. And because I'm pulling this handle, I have to put my hand on wherever I can have the best pressure. So for example, if I'm sewing this arc right here, I have to have the ruler on this side. You'll see if I put it on this side, this interior arc, although these are the same, this is shorter. It doesn't have as long of a length, so the foot can't fill that space. So for this particular one, I have to be on this side and my hand will have to be across my body. So as I pull, I'm pulling this way, keeping the foot pressing against the template, and my hand is pushing that opposite direction. So that is really important, and that is a question, but you are going to have some contortions with the long arm. That is just how it is. If, in order to get the design, I'm going to have a little bit of that no matter what. And I will tell you that as I've been doing it more and more, I'm not afraid of that. It doesn't feel wrong or bad or I can't do it. It's just like anything. As you practice, you will feel more comfortable because you've done it many times. Okay, so again, we're just going to do the next one and we'll just start going, and I'm just going to kind of do it a little bit faster at speed so you can kind of get the idea. All right, and I would just keep moving this along. I can even, eyeball if you want to. Precision is what you need with your spacing gauge, but if you don't care, then that's up to you, right? You don't have to be as precise if you don't want to. Getting right into that center position. Can you guys, I'll do a little bit more. Can you? Okay. And again, this is a little short for this length. So you'll see if I put that on there, the foot cannot rest easily and get me down to this other side as comfortably. So I am always going to use this side in order to be correctly spaced, I think. I think it's easier, safer. And I'll just keep my pinky out of the way. You saw as this came close, my finger was nearby, so I kind of shifted it out of the way, right? And we'll do one more. And what we'll do is we'll go back across the top on this so you can see the path. If we were finished, I can just move this over, get right to the next one. I'm right in the corner, and I can just come up this side and come back across the top to finish. Okay, so right here, I would line that up right along the back. I'm looking right behind me right there, checking that space, and then I can just sew over to that corner. Okay, same thing here. I'm going to have to put it this way, and I'm going to have to hold along this back portion so that I can have a safe handhold. I can't hold in the front because that will not allow me to proceed through the design. So I'm just going to position it back here. I'll check that space right there, make sure that I'm good, and I'm activating those grips with a little bit of pressure. So you'll see sometimes I do sew slower because I feel like that is not as secure as some of the other hand positions, right? Right to the corner. And then again, we'll do both of these sides and we'll be back to where we started and we'll close out that design. So I'm checking the space right here and I'm going to be holding on this side. So I have to pull the machine across my body this way. Okay, right to that center position and then flip it around and just go right to that top corner. Did you see my finger was close to right there, so I adjusted it a little bit. And here we'll just close out the design and I'll use my spacing gauge to get right into that position right at the top.
So Fran is trying to clarify, I guess the left handle is not available to you?
So
Different controls on different...
yes, okay. So this, I am right-handed and my machine is set up for a right-handed user. So the start stop button is here on the right side, the right hand button, and this is speed up. That means if I was working in manual mode, I could make my machine go faster. Right now I'm in regulated mode, so you'll see if I go slow, my machine goes slow. If I go faster, my machine will go faster. So if I had it in non-regulated mode, I could make the machine so faster if I wanted to. And there are times when you want that, right? So let's go ahead, we'll move over to the other handle, okay? On this side, this button on the inside is the speed down button, and you'll see that most of the time when I'm demoing for you, I'm not using either speed button at all. Because the machine is regulated to my movement, I don't need to. If your machine does not have regulation, then I recommend for ruler work when you're getting started that maybe slow your machine down a little bit, just like I would advise if you're on a domestic machine. Then you are trying to integrate hand position, design, stitch quality, movement of your machine, your ruler base is moving. So when you're trying to put all of those different pieces together, you want to start a little slowly so that you can have more time to make the call, right? And then as you get more comfortable, as you can get, hand positions more easily, you're getting adjusted to the feel, you can naturally speed up and you'll be able to do it faster. A lot of people will say, oh, I don't like ruler work because it's too slow. Anything is slow when you're first starting out. As you get more comfortable, you will be more effective and you will be able to go faster. And that's just with anything. Okay, so let's see, is there any more questions? Okay, so I'll bring you guys in. I'm going to bring the camera in just a little so you can see the design a little better because it looks awesome, right? Isn't that cool? And then you're going to get this secondary design right here. So we've essentially have done 2 units and we've sewn on the shorter leg of the triangle. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to move us to the other side and we're going to do a different design and we're going to use a different tool, but it's very similar to this, but it's going to produce quite a different look. Okay, so give us a sec. We're going to scoot over and get adjusted. We're going to be centered on these two, babe. All right. All right, and then I think we'll come in just slightly. I'm going to have to adjust it so I can actually sew though. Sorry about that. I need some room to sew. I'm kind of reaching over the machine so I'm not in your way, but I do have to be at least close enough to sew. Okay. All right, so we're kind of a little bit of a low angle here, but we'll bring it up. What this will allow you though is to see without my hand in the way as much. So we'll do that, and then after we stitch it, we'll go ahead and we'll show you the top-down view as well. All right, let's go ahead and grab a tool. So we've been kind of focusing on a lot of different arcs today, so we're going to be using this one again. The reason I chose this one is if I take the 4-inch arc and I want to put a line on this diagonal that is the longer part right here of this triangle, this is not a good fit. You can see that he actually fits all the way inside there, right? He can't bring us corner to corner on the triangle. Whereas if I use this longer one, I can do that. He's going to make it really pretty. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put the arcs on the longer side, and I guess we'll start over here and we'll just go all the way around and come back to this position. Okay? All right, so let's tack off. I don't know if did we cut that? I guess we did not cut our threads over here. Okay, so pull my machine away and then I'm just going to needle down and up. That lets me get that thread, that bobbin thread disengaged and cut that, and I'll cut that top thread. So we'll clean up those threads later on, but we'll go ahead and get started over here. We'll start in that sort of same top position just like we did the other one, but we are going to have a different alignment this time. We're using only that longer, sorry, got a little thread in there. Okay, so let's tack it off right there. And we'll start with the needle in the down position and just get those threads out of the way. So here, same thing. We're going to align it like this and we'll use that spacing gauge. Or again, if you want to eyeball, that's okay too. I'm fine with it. But I think that if you really want that exacting precision, that your spacing gauge is really great for that, right? But how many people out there have that calibrated 1/4 inch eyeball, right? We've been doing this a while. You probably already have that. So I'll adjust a little bit right here so I can get right into that corner. And then here we go. So keeping the foot right against the edge of the template. Okay, and here I would just shift this way. I'm going to hold on this back side, and I'm going to make sure that I have enough room for my 1/4 inch right there. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so right now I'm kind of getting into the danger zone, right? So we'll make the machine turn off. I just let go gently. I'm going to move my hand to the front, and I'll just keep working and get right into my spot. Okay, so that is not that big of a deal. You know, that hand position, that readjusting, I think it's just like anything. You just realize that that's what you need to do, and you just do it. So I'll get right down into this corner right here. And again, I'm going to put it like this. I'll be holding right here on the back, I think is probably going to be my most practical way to hold it. And again, right in this area, make sure that your hand is clear of this because that foot is hopping. The foot is actually lifting up and down with each stitch. That's why we have these fat rulers. If the ruler isn't fat enough, this is where the phrase, oh, if you don't use the right thickness, it's going to go under your foot. I have never had that happen to me on a domestic machine, and if it does happen, it's very rare. It is most likely happening when the foot is not properly positioned. But on your long arm, the foot is actually elevating and dropping down with every stitch. So these fatter rulers are fatter than that elevation so that they will not go underneath the foot. Okay, so let's go ahead and get us into our next position. And if I don't have good pressure, I'll just adjust my hand as I need to so that I can be right where I need to be, and I'll turn it off. Then I can adjust to this position as well, and we'll just get up to that next point right there. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'll finish off the last two. Looking for my 1/4 inch right there on that side, and my tape is still working for me. It's about the correct size for this space, so I can line it up right on that little tape reference mark that I have to get right to the center, and this one as well. So again, I want to be right where I left off here and finish right at the exact stitch position right there. So I'm just going to make some little adjustments so I can get right to that top position. Okay, and I'll stop for a minute, and then I'm just going to move some of the tools out of the way. You'll notice that because we did this now on these longer diagonals, it is changing the design very dramatically. You're basically getting this sort of elongated circle almost by putting the arcs on this side. Now I could go ahead and I could still do the shorter legs, and what I'll do is I'm going to grab my stitching line disc. It's in the drawer, honey. Just grab a couple of them. Thanks. So a stitching line disc is little circles, right? I'll just put them up on here so you can see them. And they have different interior dimensions. Like you can see that one's really fat, kind of on the inside. What I need is one that will fit my marking tool. So this is about a felt tip pen kind of a size. And I'm thinking that this will probably work right there as far as being able to write and fitting on there without moving around a lot. Okay, so let's go ahead and just show you real quick what would happen if we did use our arc this way. What would we get? What would it look like? So you can always try this yourself. You know, if you want to just play with it and see what's it going to look like. I can use my little stitching line disc. So let's see, guys, I have to get in here with my pen. So pardon my boarding house reach, right? So it's going to look kind of like that. and you're going to see we're going to get a little overlap right there. So I would have that on both sides. Essentially, it would be kind of like this. Well, it's not very clean, but there's the idea, right? And you can decide, do I like that? Do I not like that? If you don't like it, then you can choose not to do it. And what you'll get between these two is you would essentially get kind of a flat overlap here on each of these. If you did that 4-inch arc in those other spaces, you would get kind of a stitched overlap right there between all of those. So this is what it would look like. I'll just put the last one in right there. Okay. So that's another totally different design. That's just a different option for you. And remember that, these lines right here are stitched in, but it's possible that you don't have to stitch them in. If your block seam was right here, you don't necessarily have to quilt this line in the middle. This quilting right here, if you did the 6-inch spiral on the longer lines and you did the 4-inch on the short legs of the triangle, this is going to create its own design, and that is enough quilting for this space. So you would not even have this stitch line potentially in the middle if you didn't want to have that. So those are just some ideas of how you can use those different curves and get very, very different ideas. Okay, so let's scoot out just a little bit so you can kind of see. Let's pull the camera up a little bit and angle it down so they can get a little bit of a sense of all of the designs. That's just pull it up. Okay. All right. So, and Honey's going to kind of pan over each of them so you can see each one, and that'll give you just some options. So again, this is totally doable on your domestic machine or on a long arm. What's different is the hand positions, but the position of the ruler on the fabric is the same. I would be doing the same thing in terms of alignment, centering, spacing gauge, whether I was on my domestic machine or I was on my long arm. Okay, so I think we have time for one more design really quick, and I have it set up right here. This space up here is a 2-inch channel, so we're going to see if we can get up a little bit. So tip it down this way, I think, like that. So this space is a 2-inch border, and I've actually got a corner down there on the end. And I recently had somebody was asking me how to do an egg and dart corner, and it is a little tricky, and I guess I didn't realize that when I did it, and we didn't really share it. So I'm just going to show one possible idea, and what I want to tell you when I show you that idea is there's a million possibilities. It's completely up to you. You decide, and it's also based on the space that is available. So I'm going to scoot over just a little because I want to show you the corner in our discussion as we talk about it. Okay, so can you actually shift all of that over too? Thanks. Thank you, dear. Okay, so if we're doing egg and dart, it's just like if we're going around a corner with the car, right? This side that's on the inner part of the corner is shorter. This part on the outside is longer. So even if our egg and dart fit perfectly, we'd still have a problem. So we have to do a little bit of fudging in order to make it work. That means we need to create some rules for ourselves that we can follow in order to make things happen. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that really quick. Let's get some of these threads out of here. Oh, okay, so let's see. So we had a birthday girl this past week. Linda Smith Martindale celebrated her birthday. I'm also going to give a shout out to one of our regular viewers, Nan. She's coming home from hospital, so I'm hope that she's feeling better. And if you're sick or you're having a birthday or you're having something you need recognized, we celebrate you. Thank you for sharing your time with us, and know that we really appreciate you as well. So in order to do our design, I'm going to start right over here with my finger, and we'll kind of adjust the camera as we go. You'll have to be patient with us. We'll come out a little bit so you can see some more, a wide angle view. And I'll do the inside, and I'll show you some alignment on the corner, and then we'll come back and we'll do the outside. And when we do this, recognize that if I'm doing different sides. Like if this is not square and this side would be different over on the right, you're going to have to make adjustments from the center to the outside on each quadrant. So I would have this be one thing and this would be different because they would be different lengths and they wouldn't necessarily hit at the same position. So again, your stitching line disc can be really valuable for doing that, for marking it off. And what you can do is if say I'm using a 3-inch clamshell, right? And the 3-inch hits this corner at this position. I can actually just make a corner and mark 2 inches in from that, and I can play with different designs just for the corner. I don't have to draw all of this out. I only need to know how much space would be left over if I start from the center. And you can do that too. And then you can just photocopy those corners and mark that in, and then just play with different ideas until you find the one that fits the design that you want. Okay? All right, let's get detached from our bobbin and we'll scoot over. All right, so we're going to start right here in the center of this spot, and this essentially is the middle of our design right there. So we'll tack it, and again, I'm just going to reiterate with this template. Thank you. This white line right here, the top line, is the alignment for the reference, right? So when we line this up, right on this stitch line right here, that's the white line that we're lining up, okay? Whenever you're working with a clamshell and you're on your long arm or on your domestic machine, I am not going to hold the whole ruler, right? I only hold the clamshell where I am stitching. Okay, so don't worry about what's happening over there. Just hold it right here and just hold that one. Then when you get into your position, then I can shift my hand over and now I can sew this one. Okay. Okay. All right, so let me scoot down a little bit. Okay, thanks, baby. Okay, then just move over, get lined up, hold this one, and then we'll hold this one and we'll just work our way right over towards that corner. Okay. So right now you can see I'm not going to be lined up nice and even on the corner. It's just not going to happen. So I'm going to show you right now, this top line is a certain distance away right here from the edge. It's actually a 1/2 inch based on the measurement right here. So right here, I actually marked that already. Okay? So I'm just going to mark it again just so you can see. The top of the clamshells on this side are going to touch that line as they stitch. So let's put this one on, and I'll stitch one more. And you'll see that at this point, this one isn't really going to touch that line up there. It's just not possible. But I can adjust it maybe just a little bit to kind of get me close, right? So it's going to stretch out a little bit over to there. Okay? And I can go this direction from the inside. I can try to match that point such that when I do that partial, that I could line it up like that, and it's going to give me that opposite piece right there. Okay? And if it is a different measurement, you're going to have to play with that from the center of the other one. It may not be symmetrical on the corner, but at least it will be the same on all the corners, right? All 4 of the corners, if you have 2 longs and 2 shorts, you'll get the same variation on each side. And then you would just sew down. I have to say I find it a lot easier to pull the machine towards me this way. That is really the most comfortable position overall. Okay, now I'll just tack this off and I'm just going to go back up to the top. because that's what I would do. I would start from the same position, and I'm going to make a couple little reference lines as well to keep the design lined up nice and neat. Okay, so I'll just push this up, and I'm going to just tack the needle in there so that it'll stay out of our way. Right now, each of these intersections now are the ones that we want to hit, right? Each of these little points right there, we want to create a little reference line. So I can just walk through with my ruler, I can line it straight up and give myself that visual marker right there. What happens with egg and dart is sometimes it starts looking like your diamonds are drooping over, right? And if I want them to be super tight and clean, I think it's worth going ahead and putting some of those reference lines in so that we can have that same very accurate diamond. Okay, we should, because we're going to start at the exact same position on the other line. So we should have a nice clean look right there, but just in case we don't, that tells us maybe we need to fudge a little bit. Okay, so we're going to do the same egg and dart back the other direction. I am starting from the center because that is a very nice, convenient, and easy, accurate reference point. So at this point, you know that I can't obviously hold it like that. That was just way too easy this way, right? So I got to hold it this way now, okay, and get it lined up. Right there, I want to see that my lines line up. The line on the template should be aligned right at the center position there. And I'm going to have to get back behind here in order to sew that. Again, only holding where the template is, the clamshell that you're stitching, right? And I am right in the center there. So I'll look on this side again, make sure that I'm aligned, and now I'll hold this side. And if I'm not aligned, I can adjust at the top. Like if I need to make a small adjustment, I'm always going to do that at the top in order to get realigned. And that's going to help make those diamonds line up really nicely and be very straight. Okay, so checking that center position right there, making sure I'm touching the foot, and here I go. Okay, checking my position, and now I can adjust my hand for the next one. Again, if I need to make any adjustment to that position, always do it on the top. And that'll get you that nice clean diamond. So right here I'm lined up precisely, and I'm right in the center of this one now. Okay, so let's see what happens. We can do at least one more. We're right on the line right there, and then we'll decide what are we going to do for that corner. Okay, so now this one we want the diamond, but we're going to have to decide where do we want to hit right there. If we go all the way to that corner right there, this arc is going to be very small. So we can choose. We can come down a little bit more. We can pick a random spot right there, and we'll make both of those connect back up to this line. So I'll just mark this line really quick so that we have that as a visual as well. So I'm squaring this up, and I'm going to draw the line so I know where I'm going. Okay, so I got this squared up right here on both sides. So here, let's just make a mark. We can't make it all the way down on the bottom here. I think it's a little bit too far. Well, maybe we can. Right there. Okay, and then we'll line that up so that we stitch right into that spot, right? So you're just going to be tipping this and getting right to that dot. So we need that 1/4 inch. Let's use our spacing gauge. This is about that accuracy right there. So I'm all the way in the hook right here. And here we go. So right there. And I'm right at the bottom here. And I'm just going to dip over to that side. Okay, so same thing. Spacing gauge right there, getting me right into that diamond position. right there. Okay, and now I can just continue down the rest of this way, and I would line this up. If I needed that visual reference for the diamond right here, I would mark this one so I can have that great reference line. So I'll line it up. So I'm a little bit close to my hand, so let go, hold back here now, and just come into that position and finish out the design. So what I'm going to do as soon as we're done, I'll actually just, maybe I'll spray it so you guys can see it a little better. Can you get the spray bottle, baby? I think we'll just wet it down a little bit, see if it'll vanish. I know it won't be clean because there's a lot of ink on there. But that way you guys can maybe have a little bit better chance to see it. All right, and I'm just going to check some of our comments and stuff like that. I want to brag about my sister Lois Williams. She's watching with us today and she teaches ruler quilting at our local quilt shop. We celebrated her 90th birthday 12 days ago. Etta Hooper, thank you so much for sharing that. I say do your passion as long as you can, as much as you can, whenever you can. Well, congratulations to her. That's an awesome accomplishment. Thank you for sharing that she is passing on the love to other generations. That's awesome. Okay, let's wet this down and get these lines off of here. This is our last design, so we're just gonna wet the tar out of it, right? Because it won't matter. We can just make it as wet as we want to. All right, and so we do not have the egg and dart corner, but we have a Can you guys hear me?
37K on sound.
Can you hear me now?
Just maybe their internet.
I might have just bumped a button or something. I'm not sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. So this is our last design for the day, and I'll just take everything off so that you can see what I see. Okay.
Still no sound, they said.
All right. Hopefully.
100%. Oh, now they hear you. Other
Oh,
people can hear you.
okay. Okay. Sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know what happened. Maybe I bumped something. Okay, well, I hope you guys had fun. Remember, even though this class is specifically detailing something for long armors, we're always going to show designs that work for everyone. That is what is important, knowing that you can do it either way. So we are going to go eat and have dinner, have family time, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend and or week if your week has already started for some people. And I'll just pull the camera out just a little bit so you can kind of get that full view really quick. Make sure that you guys can see everything. Oh, sorry, hang on just a second. Right, so there's our big messy wet spot right there with taking off that air erase. And there you can see the corner pretty good. And then we've got the pretty arc with all of this lovely little arc detail right here for these two. And then you've got the little circle embellishments when we did it on the longer diagonal of those triangles for those other two designs. So here's just a few different ideas, and I think these all would be fantastic for this kind of snowball block, but you can also use them for just about anything. So have a great week, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Bye bye.